Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters, and today I want to show you how I made the really pretty butterfly floating frame card that I shared as part of the International Highlights blog hop today. All of the written instructions and measurements for this card will be on my blog, and the link to that will be under the video, but I wanted to show you how I did this. I'm using the technique that Jennifer McGuire showed. I'm not sure, it's not real recent, probably quite a few years ago now, but she had this great technique that she used press and seal, which is like a cling wrap that works really well to hold these in places because the actual butterflies or whatever images you use, you can use any image, actually look like they're free floating on your card. So let me just switch over to my desktop and I'll show you how I made the card. All right, so this is the card that I shared. And you can see I've used the, it's called Floating and Fluttering. It's a bundle from Stampin' Up. So it's the Floating and Fluttering bundle. Comes with the dies as well that cut out these really pretty images and cut out this piece image here that I'm using. So you get 3 butterflies and some leaves all in one. Okay, so, and you probably, maybe you can kind of see if I hold it up. So the butterflies are raised. So you use a lot of dimensionals on this, but it does kind of look like the butterflies are free floating on your card. And this stamp set makes it really easy because you don't have to use all sorts of individual images. So I've gone ahead and done some cutting in advance. So what you're going to need is a piece of cardstock, and I'm using Calypso Coral. So I've cut it 5.5 by 8.5. And I'm just going to go ahead and fold it in half to make my card base. And then I've got a piece of Daffodil Delight. And hear this. I like the really bright colors. It just seems appropriate for a butterfly card. So this is Daffodil Delight. This is cut 4 inches by 5.25. And I'm just going to adhere this onto my card base. Okay, so we can set that aside. Now I've got 2 pieces of basic white cardstock. Both of them are cut 3 3/4 by 5. And I'll show you what we're going to do with those. We only use 1. Then I've gone ahead and cut out 4 of these butterfly images, and I've colored them with my Stampin' Blends. So I've used Calypso Coral, Daffodil Delight, Pool Party, and Old Olive. So the first thing that you're going to do is take one of your 2 pieces of the basic white cardstock, and you're just going to lay your butterflies on your cardstock, and you want them so that they are over the edge. So 4 works really well so that you can cover up your entire piece pretty much covering it. You don't want them overlapping. So they get them as close as you can together. And as I said, they're just going to sit on here loose. You're not going to adhere them in any way. I'd like to cover up some of these gaps that I've got going on here. I don't know that I want an upside down butterfly. Maybe that's a little better. The reason I'm trying to get this into the middle is because you can actually make 2 cards when you cut this apart. So that's what I'm trying to do, is to make sure that I have that the middle covered. Okay, I think that's good. It's in place. Okay, so now I've got, this is the press and seal. So you can buy this at any, I don't know, I'm going to say any grocery store, but hopefully you can buy it at any store. So I'm just going to take a piece, like any press and seal. Now this is sticky on one side. So I'm just going to take this and press it down. Try not to move your pieces. Okay. So you definitely don't need this full piece that I've cut. Okay. So you want to just press this in place. And this press and seal is just really holding this in place. And then I'll take my paper snips. My basic white's moved, but that's okay. This actually, the press and seal held it in place. Okay, so got it on here. Now I'm just going to take and lift up this piece and turn it over, because what you want to do is trim around your piece. And again, you don't have to get this perfect. In fact, I'm going to just trim off this excess of the press and seal. It's just easier to work with. You're eventually going to peel this piece of basic white cardstock off. Okay, so I've got this on here pretty well. So now I'm going to take my paper snips and I'm going to trim off my excess. So the excess right to the edge. So I'm going to use this piece of basic white cardstock as my guide, and trimming so you don't move it. Luckily it holds pretty well. So the butterflies are held in place, which is what you want. You can imagine trying to do this without something like the press and seal. You can just keep moving this basic white. And if you hold it with your palm of your hand down, it makes it so it doesn't shift around. All right. Trying for it not to move, and it's wanting to move, but like I said, all good. I can do it from this side. You might be able to use your trimmer for this. I didn't try, I just have been using my paper snips to try and cut the excess pieces off. All right. And I can do this one last side. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect because you can trim this when you get there. Okay, so I've got my piece trimmed. Now I'm gonna just lift this up. Again, I want both pieces. I want my basic white underneath. It is sticky. Okay, I'm gonna just put that there, and I'm gonna bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So what you wanna do is you're gonna put this on your plate. And now I'm using, there's this really pretty label die that comes with the floating and fluttering dies. So I'm just going to line this up in the middle, and I'm going to cut the center out. Now you can see you wouldn't be able to do this if you didn't have the basic white underneath it. I'm not sure how easily it would just cut through, but the basic white cardstock in behind just kind of holds those butterflies in place. And just run it through, back and forth. Make sure that it has, looks like it has cut through. Yes, it has. Okay. So now you've got your butterflies on this side, and you've got this one piece of butterfly that you can use on another card. So save that. And we're just going to trim this a little bit more. I didn't shift it, so that's okay. You can just trim. There we go. So now you can actually peel this off of this basic white cardstock. And you can see I've got one little piece of butterfly still that's stuck onto this basic white. I'm going to see if I can lift him off and put him, he goes right here. Don't know that it matters, actually. Okay, so you don't need this anymore. This is, and it will be sticky. The press and seal kind of leaves a film on it. Turn this over. Now, you do need a lot of dimensionals. What you want to do now is put dimensionals all over the back of these butterflies, because this is what's going to hold, well, the butterflies and the leaves. This is what's you're going to use to adhere to your card base. So I'm going to use the big dimensionals, and then I'm going to switch and use the mini dimensionals where I need to. But really, you're just going to cover the back with dimensionals. This is what floats. It gives you that floating effect. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my mini dimensionals, just where I just want to make sure that I've got enough dimensionals to hold all of the butterflies away from the card base, and then I've got at least a dimensional on each of the pieces. Oops. No, I don't on this one. Probably use another one on here, and some over here by the edge. If you don't have enough dimensionals on it, your pieces will sag. If that makes sense. Okay, I think I've got enough dimensionals on this. Okay, so now this is your second piece. So it's going to go on like this. So you can now start taking your dimensionals off. And actually you can, yeah. So you still got your press and seal on the front, but you can peel the backing off your dimensionals. Hopefully this is holding it in place. Ah, this came off, but it's okay. Now, since you've still got this in place, actually this one goes on the bottom. Let's take this. So I've got this piece, and it really, if you cut it, it will fit right in the bottom corner as you trim the edge all around it. That was the purpose of trimming this piece to the size of what was going to fit on your card base. All right, so I'm going to take this piece off, and it fits here. So I've overlapped a little bit on that one, but that's okay. You want to try not to overlap, but if you overlap a little bit, it's not too much of a problem. This goes in this corner. And then the last piece, And get rid of all the press and seal sticking to my fingers. We'll go up in this corner. So you can see that you've got a frame. Now I've got a piece here. So if you've got any extras or whole gate spaces, you can actually take the pieces. So I don't tend not to cut them off. You can take these pieces and just use them to fill in the holes like that. So I'm just going to put a mini dimensional on the back of this, and then you can trim those. So that's the idea. Don't throw your extra pieces that you trim off these butterflies, because you may find that as you created your frame, you'll end up with some space that you want to fill in. So I'm just going to take this and trim it to the edge. So I could do that here as well if I wanted to, but I'm just going to leave that for now. Okay, so now you can take this piece and use your Stampin' Seal. And trim this so you can kind of see that this is all popped up with dimensionals. Like that. Now you will get film on from the press and seal, but you can just rub that off. It is still kind of sticky, but I just kind of rub that off. If you've got an adhesive eraser, you can use that. Okay, so the last thing, I stamped, the stamp comes with this lovely label. So I stamped that, and then I used the thank you from the Sweet Ice Cream stamp set. And then I cut it out with the label that is part of the bundle. And then we're going to just use some dimensionals to pop this up in the space. There we go. Okay, and then the last couple of things is I've got some of the Daffodil Delight ruched ribbon, so I'm just going to tie a little bow. And I've got some of these pretty, these are the Artistic Blooms or Artistry Blooms sequence, adhesive back sequence. So I think I'll just put some of the yellow and Calypso Coral colored ones on. So I've got a glue dot here for my ribbon that I will just put here. And then a couple of these Calypso Coral ones on. There. Okay. So hopefully that made sense as I was going through. If you have any questions as you're watching the video, just leave a comment. I'm happy to respond to them. But I hope you like the card. It really isn't that hard. The press and seal, if you could find that, it really does help to hold things in place. Mine was shifting, but you can see I was able to move things back into place fairly easily. So again, all of the written instructions and the measurements and the supply list for this card will be on my blog. If you don't, I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Canada. If you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love for you to check out my blog. And if you're interested in putting an order in, the link to that will be there as well. So, and as you're here, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd love for you to get notified when I do more videos. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Bye.